Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's podcast episode 264. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, coming to you from my remote East Coast bungalow,
You've
and I'm joined by Johnny V.
you have other bungalows, like, in different studios? Are you cheating on me? I don't
Yeah,
understand, Terry.
I know it's been great. I got to spend of course, some time on Nantucket Island over the weekend. Just a tremendous time. We'll get into that in a little more detail here in a few minutes. I believe we're going to have our Nantucket Open MPO champion join us. That'll be Ricky Wysocki. So, well, spoiler alert, I guess it's a little late for that, but Ricky is going to join us, and we'll catch up with him, talk a little bit about it. Not only did we get to see some phenomenal play and have a great weekend over there, I got to room with the two-time world champ, and it wasn't awkward at all. I swear I didn't make it awkward at any point.
I
No special interviews, nothing out of the ordinary.
I find that
I don't
very
think.
hard to believe on multiple levels, but just knowing you for 25 years or more, I have a feeling that you made it awkward at some point.
No.
You
It was
probably
all
asked to
good.
borrow his toothbrush at one point, or maybe like, you got any spare deodorant, Ricky? I mean, I'm a little, I don't know. I guarantee you at some point he gave you a side eye.
No. The only side eyes that were given was like that, when you're rooming with someone you don't always room with, and then you look over and you're like, are they sleeping? Are they still sleeping or not? Do I get up? If I get up and go to the bathroom, will that wake them up? Like all those things went through my head, but nothing again too weird overall. So we're going to talk to Ricky Wysocki. We'll talk a little bit about the Nantucket Open, a really amazing weekend over there. We can quickly touch on some of the other things that we saw take place. The Canadian Nationals event took place, of course, up north, even more north than where I am. And then we also saw the Tim Selinsky event wrap up this weekend. And back at the same track, at least one of them, that we were just at a few weeks ago for the MVP Open, or a week ago or so for the MVP Open. And I'm going to start off, if I haven't already, I want to start off congratulating Paige Pierce, the highest FPO rated woman of all time, of any time, with her 980 PDGA rating that was released today. So congratulations to her. Congratulations to Gannon Burr, who, as some are saying, became the youngest to get to 1,000 at the age of 14 or 15.
14.
And then also congratulations, Paul McBeth. He was kind of like the old news of those updates today, right? I mean, 10:59.
His was
again,
actually like slightly disappointing. Like, oh, he didn't hit 1060. Like I really thought he was going to get to 1060, guys. Like, it's only 10:59. So, I mean, I guess there's next time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what else he can do to impress us anymore, because 10:59 clearly phenomenal, greatest rating of all time, this and that. But there was that just slight letdown, like almost 1060.
Well, you know what? He's got bigger fish to fry or other things to worry about anyway. I mean, really, what's in a rating? Right? No? How much? Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I was going to say, how much emphasis are we putting on ratings, but yet here we are talking about them. So clearly they are important. We know they are for sponsorship reasons, for bonus reasons, for getting into tournaments. They're certainly very important, helping with all sorts of things. So again, congratulations. Call it silly or not, I think Paige getting to yet a new ceiling or breaking a new threshold, as opposed to Paul getting to one that he's been at before. Not that it's not impressive what he's at. I just, seeing someone break that new record on the FPO side, I thought was pretty darn cool. So,
I mean, Paul broke his own record, but he's like pushing the ceiling up. Whereas of Paige, I mean, I guess, because Paul's never been at 1059 before.
What?
No, he was at 1057 was the previous high rating, because people were just like, quote unquote, complaining that they're just getting their 1057 discs that they ordered from Discraft a few months ago, because that was the new high. And now 1059 is his new rating, which is why I said it
Oh,
felt
I
like a slight
apologize.
deflating to not be at 1060. That's why you were a little confused, Terry.
Yeah, I
Yes.
definitely was confused. I was thinking he's been at 10:59 before.
No,
Well,
he
it
hasn't.
shows you how much it matters. I
Yeah,
mean, come on, who
I
cares?
agree with you there. I mean, it's a again phenomenal feat, but you're right. It is really cool to see that. A lot of people on the board. First of all, shout out to Disc Baron. Thanks a lot for your $10 super chat. As always, it is really appreciated. A lot of people asking about whether we're not having Nate Sexton on tonight. Why this? Why that? I mean, Nate doesn't understand computers, so
No,
no.
and talking into him.
Yeah,
He
he's
struggles
not
with
good in
that
front of a
clearly.
mic. He gets really nervous. So we just didn't want to put that kind of pressure on him. And in actuality, Terry was in Nantucket, so he got to actually stay with Ricky, which is why we chose to have Ricky on. We'll probably have Nate on in a couple weeks, maybe right before or after USDGC, and just kind of catch up with him in general in life. Where he's about due.
Yeah, and as is, a very logical choice, of course, would be Kristen Tatar as well, who I know has talked back and forth about getting up early versus what she's not used to when she's been in Estonia and getting up for tournaments and everything else. And I know that I'm going to see her and Silver more over the next few weeks as they're going to continue their U.S. tour. And Sarah Hokum also rightfully deserving to be on here, as would Barry Schultz, Elaine King. I mean, we had a lot of good golf going on this weekend, and for me, I'll admit, it felt like it made the most sense to go with at least one of the champions that I got to be part of and to help break down and talk about that we saw this last weekend. But yeah, talk about a good problem to have. Those are just three of the tournaments. Obviously, there were other events going on around the country or internationally, but to have those three big events all wrapping up or going on this weekend was pretty incredible. Which is funny because some could then criticize and say, well, yeah, but the Nantucket event was just a B tier. And I think as we've promoted it and talked about it for the last few years, it's not just a B tier. It's this absurd event that has phenomenal or an amazing amount of added cash. And then the amenities that go along with it, with being helped out to be on Nantucket Island, to have over 10 grand added, to have the nicest catered lunch that you get all year long for any tournament, to have the nicest restrooms that we have for in terms of portable restrooms. I know that sounds funny, but I'm telling you, the restrooms that get used at the Nantucket event sometimes could rival some people's small houses. Like they really treat you well there. And then it's just so much fun to be there and to be on the island and to have a property, whether it's a few steps or a mile or two from the course, and then to go play a championship caliber course. Like, it has everything. So don't let that B tier status fool anybody.
That's kind of like calling Bowling Green just an AM event. It's just an AM event.
Yeah, exactly. When it's so much more
exactly
than what it might look like, just by a tier or on paper. So pretty amazing for sure. So yeah, congrats to all of those people that we just said. And I don't want to, do you call them upsets? We've talked, maybe there's a little almost jinxing there. We talked about Paige hasn't really lost since May, and Macbeth has only lost once since May. But then this last weekend, they both go and get bested by Sexton and by Kristen this weekend. Should we at all be shocked by that?
Shocked? No. I mean, anytime anyone beats Paige or Paul, it's an upset. That's not unfortunately. That's just the way it is because
that's just math.
They're just the number one. So anytime someone beats the number one seed, even if they're arguably almost a number two, like Nate Sexton is, who is the former champion of the Canadian event. Yep. Canadian National Championships, and so it's hard to call that like a big upset, but I guess it is an upset. And Kristen, who's been putting up some really good stellar rounds, just beating Paige again. It's an upset. It's not the world's biggest. You're not talking a 116 upset. You're talking like a 1-3 upset.
Sure. Well, and I think in news, of course, the storm rolled through Nantucket. It ultimately adjusted our day in that things got started a little bit later. Quite a few of the participants weren't able to take either a Friday night or a Saturday morning ferry, so they were all refunded that weren't able to make it over, which is incredibly gracious of Todd and the staff. But then as the storm rolled past Nantucket and Massachusetts, it continued north and headed up over to wreak some havoc there in Canada at that event as well. And it sounds like one of their rounds was altered or shortened
12 holes.
to I think just 13 holes, probably.
12 or 13, I believe I saw.
Okay.
Round 2 of the Canadian Championships. It looks like it only went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So yeah, 13 holes.
Which makes sense because at that point you need at least 13 holes for a rated round. So maybe they found a way to establish at least those 13 holes so it could still be rated. I don't know if that's what they were really thinking about or not, but of course there had to be some extenuating circumstances to get them at that. And in Nantucket, we ultimately had 18 in the morning, 18 in the afternoon, along with the Raz round, but everything just got pushed back. We'll say an hour or so. Hour or 2 hours in the morning, so we were able to get it all in. But as that went over multiple days, I think they had additional challenges there. And I believe I saw somewhere that Paul Macbeth, who did take second, to prove he doesn't really care if he doesn't take first, I think he donated all of the money back to maybe the course or the club to help with trying to repair some of the damage that ripped through there. So big props to him. I don't know. Is that his way of calling out Sexton? So should Sexton do that too? Because Paul, who took second, gave his money back?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, I think we should make it that way. Anyway, so let's get into it. I got Ricky.
I can dial him right up.
If you've got him, let's go ahead. He says that he's ready.
All right.
Any moment now.
All right, give me a second.
Get Ricky on the line.
I'm going to give Ricky a call here. Oh. No, that's all right. That's all right. Here, let me join you. I don't know if yeah. Let's see if I can do this here. All right. You might want to turn it sideways for me, Ricky. There we go.
I am here. And
all right.
One way or another, looks like Johnny will have to just make a mild adjustment here. We'll get everybody on screen probably.
Give me just a second. We're gonna get we'll get.
We got 2 Terry Millers for what I see.
that is the worst thing that you can ask for. All right, let me get Ricky on this particular shot here, and we will make this happen. But everybody can hear you, Ricky. Terry, go ahead and why don't you just have a quick conversation with Ricky, and I will bring him in here.
As Johnny works on that. So Rick, how you doing first of all?
Doing good. Just got to Vermont, got a couple practice rounds in today, and I was just chilling at the cabin.
All right. So well, let's start with the weather. How's the weather up there right now after everyone was kind of fighting to get through where we did? How's the weather up there?
Weather's awesome. So it was like 60 or 70 today. I think 70 today, and really good practice weather. The courses are in great shape, and I think the hurricane's blown through, so we should be in the clear for the rest of the week.
Well, and that was going to be my next question. As we were just talking about, and didn't really see any real damage out there in Nantucket. Of course, it got wet on us, and the course got a little bit soaked. But then, as things ripped through the Canadian Nationals, plenty of trees came down, all that stuff. Any visible damage of any kind from any form of storms? I know that's quite a bit inland, but have there been any storms that you know of, or any major damage or change up there?
No, yeah, pretty much same course. No big trees falling, changing the design or anything from Worlds. So, yeah, it's just same old great course that we got at Worlds, and it's one of my favorite courses. I think between the two, the complex is just one of my favorite to play all year.
So do you love that kind of yin and yang mentality? The wooded Brewster course and then the wide open. Well, not wide open. It still has, plenty of OB. But is that what you're getting at when you say you love that complex?
Yeah. I think it's most tournaments you think of like, if you think of like Delaware, Iron Hill, you think of just wooded, or if you think of like, Vegas Challenge, you just think of open bottoms. Like, I think the fact that we can have both complements at the same tournament is awesome. I think it's something that is definitely unique. It's not something you should be able to expect everywhere. It's like you can't go to Arizona or Nevada and expect to throw tight wooded Iron Hill type shots. So it's cool that each region has its own unique style of shots. But I think Vermont having a little bit of both to offer is definitely up there with the top complexes in the world for sure.
All right. So this last weekend, you and I were talking about it. Not too often will you play ever during a typical year these days. Will you play 2 rounds of golf, especially on a championship caliber course, but 2 rounds of golf, a B tier. Do you feel like, were you slumming it this weekend? What was going on?
Yeah, no, it's definitely something new. It's been a minute since I played that. I think back in like 2012, 13, that's the last time we really played big A tiers. We played 2 rounds a day, but yeah, last week was just a B tier casually. I was really burned out heading into Maple Hill. I really needed a week off. I played Worlds, then I went straight to Delaware, whereas a lot of other players took that week off, and for good reason. I think Kevin and a lot of other players took it off, and so for just me playing Delaware, really just I didn't really have any time to relax and just recoup mentally after Worlds, and so I think it really showed at Maple Hill for sure. I can tell. I already know mentally heading in there, I wasn't 100%. So I think after that, I was like, all right, I just need a week off. If I do go play, I'm going to take 6 discs. I didn't know at the time. I was like, I know the Hurricanes can hit right around the tournament time. So I'm like, all right, here's my 6 discs. If I play, great. If not, I'm just going to go hang out on the island and hang out with Todd and do whatever, all the fun island stuff. So yeah, it was just kind of a wing it mentality. I grabbed a couple discs and I was like, I'm going to go just chill out and really not, I'm not going to practice all week. I'm just going to play like 1 round before the tournament and go out and just have fun and enjoy the weekend and just let loose a little bit, which I normally can't do if I'm playing a big event with always, whether it's an NT or Pro Tour, there's always something to play for with the points. And, just as a competitor, I want to play well all the time. But so that was my one-off week, even though I still played, so to say.
Well, and it's funny you say that. So just to put that in perspective for everybody, you say you're going to take the week off, relax, have some fun, play with just 6 discs in a grocery bag, and you still, just to put this in perspective, you shoot 1045 and 1052 golf. So right pretty much at where your rating's at. And I guess you can't really be too mad about those results, right? I mean, if that's a chill, relaxing weekend for you, I hope you realize most people would die to have those 2 rounds back to back.
Yeah, I don't say that in like a cocky way. It's just
sure, of course.
It's great that I shot well and I was able to do that, but my mentality is more of what I'm talking about. Obviously, I'm always trying to perform and play at a high level, but more of just my mentality going in. Like, as a competitor and me, as much as I play, I'm so fine-tuned that I can pretty much, play with a couple discs and play some pretty good rounds. But, it's just something where, mentally, that's kind of was my mindset. Obviously, physically and performing, I still want to win, as always. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm a competitor. I want to win.
Yeah, well, it was a great battle. And if anyone is going to, wants to wait another week and a half to 2 weeks for the footage, then you need to put in your, put plugs in your ears for the next few minutes. Cool. But we'll talk about the details in that you came in after the first round. You were a stroke off the lead. Kelvin Heimberg had the lead, actually. You had a pretty solid round and some kind of crazy wins on a round that started a little bit late. And then second round, you had that 1-stroke deficit. But surprisingly, Kelvin didn't end up being your closest competitor, did he?
No, yeah. So it was me and Kelvin played together the first round. In hurricane winds. I mean, that was when the hurricane winds were still prevalent and they were still blowing like crazy. We were all waking up in the morning and just going outside. We were at the cabin we were all staying at. We're like, wow, this is gonna be a fun one. Like this, it was almost GBO wind. I think was the worst wind I played in all year, and it was really close to those conditions pretty much the whole day. It was steady wind and just brutal. I mean, there was a lot of trees, so it did cover a lot. So, and we all scored I thought everyone played really well compared to the ratings based on the wind. I mean, I only shot 3 strokes different from the first round to the second round, and I think the win was literally like 30 miles an hour difference, which is huge. And to only shoot 3 strokes different is like that's really solid in my mind.
Yeah, no, and second round, completely opposite. Like 0 wind, and the sun popped through for about 10 seconds on one hole, I remember thinking, but essentially 0 wind, and the conditions were actually quite nice, except for maybe a little bit of rain, or sorry, the ground was still wet, but that was about it otherwise, right?
Yeah, no, I think we were all super thankful to know the hurricane was coming through and for it to blow through that fast and not really we didn't really get rained on much at all the first round and definitely the second round. So it was, for me, I was like, like I said, I was going in the tournament not even expecting to play, and then to go in and have actually sun poke through for a little bit and not have any rain, just having wind was awesome. We were pumped about that, and it made for a good, fun 2-round tournament.
It's prepping me. I leave for Norway tomorrow, and I'm looking at 100% chance of rain, 100% chance, 100% chance, 90%. Like, yeah, I'm glad my raincoat's already packed. So, but in terms of you coming in with that second round, you shot pretty well. It was a little bit of a slow start, but you shot pretty well. And then the news was kind of, wafting about the course. And then all of a sudden, sure enough, Joel Freeman walks in. And what did you hear, and what were you thinking as you heard it?
So I know I didn't play with him, so I knew I had him by at least like 3 or 4 strokes. So I don't know exactly how many I had him. I think it was 4. I had him after the first round, but I figured maybe I had him by 3, 2, something like that, because he was on the second group. So I figured the winner was going to come from the first group. And if I played about like I played, I was thinking, like you said, I started off really slow in the first round. So Calvin actually had me by 4 strokes after like 5 holes. So I was already digging myself out of a hole from the start. And so I was definitely feeling a little sluggish coming out the gates. And I definitely out there, it's a birdieable course, and you just have to, you can definitely torch it. You can get on a birdie streak out there and pick up a lot of birdies. So I knew it wasn't over after the start, and I just made sure to grind back and really just focus and pick up a lot of birdies in the middle part of the course. I think like holes 5 through like 15, I birdied like maybe 8 or 9 out of those 10 holes. So it was definitely a big comeback for me, and I did way bigger than I even thought, because I thought I had come back and even took the lead by like maybe 2 or 3 based on what Calvin was doing, because I thought it was just going to be me and him battling. So I was still putting the pedal to the metal and birdieing, just to be able to keep up with him. Me and him are battling. It's sure to find out I'm actually probably behind at that point, needing to birdie all those holes, not even really knowing it, to keep up with Joel shooting a 17, which is insane. Just him shooting that. And, it's the typical, like, it used to happen a lot back in the day. Like, you used to be panicking, oh, what did the guy in the second group shoot? What did the guy in second, like, to make sure you won? Instead of, like, nowadays, you're like, all right, if you won or not. But, because we have a live scoring, but you never used to. So it kind of felt like the old school feel. Like we were talking about earlier, only playing 2 rounds like we did the old school. And then you're like, all right, you always got to make sure to know what the second group did to make sure you won instead of, celebrating too early. So I thought I celebrated, tapped in, and, came back to the tent, and then they were like, oh, Joel shot at 51. I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, I thought maybe he was like on 3rd, 4th card, like, whatever. And I saw he was on in the second group. I was like, oh, maybe he did win. Like, that was crazy. And it kind of took the wind out of my sails. I was like, wow. Just deflating when you come back, think you win, and then to have that come back, you're like, all right, well, it's frustrating, but it's like you can't really take anything away from him. He was playing, totally in a different group with no pressure. It's a totally different environment playing like that. So it's definitely, that's an amazing round. Anytime you shoot 17 under any course is amazing.
Yeah, and so for everyone, his story was that he started on hole number 3, and as I'll phrase it as he did. I started on hole 17. On hole 3. I got a turkey. I got 3 birdies in a row, and then I got another turkey, and then I got another turkey, and then I got a couple more turkeys, and started off on a little 17-hole birdie stretch, like, and then for those that know Nantucket, hole 2 is a par 3, roughly 300 feet. It's just basically a hyzer shot, low skipping hyzer shot. It's a lot like hole 17 is out there, and it's of all the holes out there. When you're like, oh, I think I'm going to get a birdie, hole 2 is one of those you kind of almost count on. Yeah. And so he missed his final hole of the round to shoot the 17 under. He comes in. Finally, everyone collects their heads and realizes that those 2 are tied, you and Joel. and then we go out to the playoff, and next thing you know, you ultimately take it down there, which I capture, and we got all of that footage and whatnot. But you take it down in a playoff. So, but certainly, yeah, he went down swinging. I think is an understatement.
Yeah, oh, by far, and it's just totally under the radar from our group. Like I said, I don't think we had UDisc. We didn't have any of that, so it was just like there's no way to really know. I basically just thought I was battling Calvin, and I beat him by like 3 or 4. So I was like heading into the whole 18, like, oh, cool, this is just I actually was even kind of like thought about running 18, like throwing it in, and then like, oh, if I miss, oh well, like not a big deal. And I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I just laid up instead of like throwing it in the bushes long and then missing the putt and end up losing because I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was a little bit deflated. Not that we wouldn't love to see a 17 under, but knowing we had 2 camera coverage on the lead card, to have the winner come off of the chase card certainly would have just kind of changed up the whole dynamic, I think, of watching, as the rounds unfold and watching the coverage and whatnot. To be like, oh yeah, here it is. Oh yeah, but wait, Joel won from the second card.
Right,
so
right, exactly, yeah. Here's the footage, but yeah, it's funny.
Awesome. So that's what we saw this last weekend. As I said, congrats to you and Joel. Calvin with a strong performance. Everyone, seemed to have a really good time. Todd, Louisa, Barry, everyone, Mike, everyone handled, I think, the adversity, and that's what we heard from Canada too. Everyone handled the challenges of Mother Nature as best as they could. So huge tip of the hat, my Nantucket hat, in fact, that I see some of you guys asking about. But tip of the hat to all of those guys. And then on the women's side, I don't know if you had too much of a conversation. I know we were sharing some of the living quarters with Austin along with Katrina, and they were at our house, and Sarah and Robin were in a different house. But a little bit of an upset almost with Holcomb kind of taking care of business on the other side, or do you feel like that course maybe suits her better?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of sidearm shots off the tee, and a lot of those holes shape really well for her, and I think her sidearm's always really really hot. So that course definitely shaped up for her to get a lot of birdies out there, and it's a lot of the holes are in her range. Whether it's a lot of the par 3s are under 300, and a lot of the par 4s are 2-shot par 4s where she can throw 2 sidearms in and have a putt. So it kind of makes sense. I mean, obviously, Kat's, amazing player too, so you always expect her to play well. But I think Holcomb winning by 7 is definitely something you didn't see coming. But it's more of, at the same time, it's more of something we go out, and it's a vacation tournament too, to where it's like, we all, of course, always want to step out there and win every time we play. But this is the one we kind of let go, and we're like, all right, we're just going to chill out. Whatever happens, happens. There's always a good payout, so we don't have too much to worry about. We're still going to, make some money, and just kind of let low and let the mental well fill back up after draining it for the past couple months with the long tour schedule. So that's always in the back of the mind. And so I'm sure that was a little bit of what Katrina was feeling, but you still nothing to take away from Holcomb's great performance. And, it's awesome to see that. She's
sure. So I think it's a fair question.
At the same time, though.
I'll ask you. You're pretty. Of course, you're dominant with your forehand. You're unstoppable with your newly found 167 champion roller Velk. So, but let me ask this: Holcomb has a great performance here. Zach Melton has an all-around great weekend. Zach Melton has won this tournament in the past. Austin Turner, a lefty, has won this tournament in the past. We talk about your forehand, Sarah's forehand. I've got to ask, does this course set up as a little bit more lefty friendly? I mean, look at all the success from all those people I just mentioned.
Oh, I mean, for sure. I think 60 to 70% of the tee shots you're finishing either straight or right. So it's like in like a lot of the holes where I was throwing that. The funny thing is, like, that Champion Valkyrie, the shot I'm actually throwing it for is a bomber shot where it's going out down the fairway and then drifting to the right. Whereas if you're a left-handed player or a sidearm player like Holcomb, that's basically your dominant shot. You throw it on the fairway and it just falls left and skips into the fairway. Whereas if you're righty, you got to throw a perfect shot into that headwind, drift it, and catch it, the perfect angle to where you don't cut roll and cut out of the fairway. They just throw their most overstable disc, glide, the headwind holds them straight, and they fall into the fairway. So I think the way their disc finishes and skips into the fairway, as opposed to if you're righty, it skips out of the fairway, So it's like there's a big difference and something to be said for the way you finish and however many times. Sorry, they're messing with me right now.
I was gonna say I'm hearing an echo. Is somebody else
Yeah.
is playing it?
Yeah, it's Adam Hammis. I'm staying in the same house, and they totally threw me off. I heard my voice in the background.
Yes.
But yeah, I know as far as lefty goes out there, there's a big advantage of hitting a lot of fairways and giving yourself a lot of opportunities for upshots. Even I mean, even the upshots shaped to a left-handed player, and I was throwing a lot of sidearm pigs, if I'm recalling right. A lot of sidearm pigs, a lot of turnovers, putter shots. And the thing about it is too, a lot of them are not too long. Once you hit the fairway, you're throwing under 250, 300 into the basket, and then you're putting a lot of times inside the circle if you have a good shot. So there's a huge lefty advantage. I think, if I had the choice, I'd definitely rather be able to throw only sidearm versus only backhand on that course, which is definitely saying something.
Yeah, and I loved exactly what you just said a moment ago about refilling your mental well and kind of replenishing, recouping. We've called it a vacation tournament that still has 10 grand added to the purse, so it's very impressive. But was there anything this year that and that all speaks again so much to Todd and Luis and the crew, but is there anything this year that you were able to do on the island, off the course, but on the island, that was new or unique that you maybe didn't do a few years ago?
Yeah, I think eating a 5-pound lobster is something I've never done before, and I don't think I'll ever do again unless I go back.
Okay.
I've always liked lobster, crab, and seafood, all that stuff. I loved it. So just having that experience of like plopping a 5-pound lobster in front of me, like good luck with this, and a couple cups of butter, and just going to town. It was awesome. I mean, I'm a foodie. I love food, and I especially love seafood. So just being on the island and experiencing and having fun with pretty much the whole field. A lot of the pro field was there hanging out. So it was just a good environment, and eating like a king.
Yeah,
it's always good too. So that's a good experience. I mean, you always look forward to all the seafood. It's an island, so you're eating lobster rolls. You're going out for ice cream. You're riding bikes around. Just the environment is unlike any other. We go through the motion sometimes. We go to one tournament, go to the next tournament, do the same thing, week in and week out. So going through, taking a ferry and just forgetting everything on the mainland and just taking the bike and just sitting outside, enjoying the ocean views, going in the water, and just completely breaking it up. That does something for you mentally to where you don't get that feeling at other tournaments. So it's definitely something that I'm going to probably try to make tradition for my tour schedule.
Well, and now think about this next stretch. We're talking about, of course, as you're at Smuggler's Notch right now, and then right around the corner, you've got USDGC, Hall of Fame Classic, Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships. So there's plenty of golf to be played. That's all very important golf over these next few weeks. So, getting your batteries recharged has got to feel great. Now, so you're at Smuggler's Notch. We'll transition over to that quickly and say, you've had a lot of success out there. You talked about, the yin and the yang and the two courses now. But you've had a lot of success playing there. At one point, you're undefeated 3 or 4 years in a row. Is there anything in particular about those courses? I know they complement each other, but anything that maybe suits your game better than the next guy?
Yeah, I think that just I think that's where I set myself apart is the fact that I can throw any shot. It's not like I step up to a course and it's like, oh, this is a lefty course, so and so is going to play good, or I can basically I can adapt to my surroundings. The surroundings being the course, to where it's if there's 50% lefty holes, 50% righty holes, I'm gonna have a lot of success versus someone that maybe throws 90% backhands or 90% sidearms. I'm just as confident with a sidearm and a backhand, and I think that the people have obviously noticed that throughout the years. And there's such an even distribution out here to where you have to throw some shots, hyzer flip rock shots or sidearm firebird or backhand full power destroyer. So there's just it's not like a certain shot just sticks out and you're like, oh, this guy's going to win or do really well because the majority of the course is this. So just the fact that the even distribution of the way the fairways shape is a big advantage for me, just because I can throw all the shots and just as confidently as they're all equally confident. So I think that's something unique for as opposed to most players being dominant one way or the other. I think that's why my game is so consistent throughout the years, and always being able to play at a high level is because I can throw. And there's a lot of people nowadays that can do it, but I just think that I've got such a well-rounded game. Distance wise, approach game, and there's not, of course there's always stuff to work on, but I don't have in my mind, a weakness that sticks out and like, oh, here, he stinks at this shot or he's horrible at this shot. Like that's why I feel like I have a lot of success, and that, big reason why I think I play really well here in Vermont.
Well, and I can't speak to that enough by saying this weekend, it's so impressive and you do it better than anyone else. You have your standard kind of lofty pitch putt that you throw most of the time, but then you get into high winds or a low ceiling and you convert to a spin putt, and you were going back and forth even within the same round this weekend. And we see Yuli do that from time to time, but no player is nearly as successful as you are at being able to adjust your putt mid-round or mid-situation. And that's something that jumped out at me this weekend, to watch you throw so many spin putts. It felt like maybe a little bit of the Ricky of the old, that I knew you from way back when you're, well, okay, you're always taller than me, but
Right.
when you were much younger. And it was just incredible. And speaking to your skills or your tools, that's one of those situations right there. But I want to speak to your consistency. You just mentioned today you went from 1047, which is what you were at prior to today. You went from 1047 to 1050. You've been rated as high as 1051. Is there a number that matters to you? I mean, we talked about earlier Macbeth getting to 1059, Paige getting to 980, but do those numbers matter, or is it the win category? What matters most to you when we talk about things like ratings updates?
Yeah, I mean, rating just, it reflects definitely consistency. And, that's definitely something that's cool to be 1050. I mean, the ratings are, I believe, a little inflated, personally, but it's awesome to, I think personally, I'd say 3 to 5 rating points inflated on the high side.
Okay.
But that's just a lot of, certain people I've talked to and certain things like that. But anyways, I think that, but yeah, don't get me wrong, it still doesn't defeat the purpose that it's a cool mark to hit. I mean, 1050 is a great average to have throughout my, 8 or 9 years playing professionally. So, and it definitely speaks for the consistency, but for me, it's a lot about winning. I mean, obviously winning is what I'm here for. I like to win. I practice and train all year round to give myself chances to win in the big tournaments, and that's where I feel like I thrive a lot. And obviously, the last couple of tournaments, I've been real close and just haven't closed the door and finished the deal. But that's just what happens. Sometimes you go through spurts where that kind of stuff happens, and it's just an athlete. You're gonna go face adversity. You're never gonna. Doesn't matter what sport you're gonna play. You're gonna face hiccups, and it's just things that get thrown at you. But anyways, yeah, I think wins for me are more important. Obviously, ratings is something I want to keep up with, and I do pay attention to it. But winning is number one in my book.
Sure. Now, maybe it's a dumb question, and we could all argue back and forth all day, but would you rather win this weekend shooting 4 rounds averaging 10-20, or take second but you average 10-99 over 4 rounds?
I'd rather win.
Okay. And that's, I think, is the only logical answer, I think.
Yeah, that's a good question, though. I see where you're going with the question.
I mean,
or option one, yeah.
Okay, and I that makes perfect sense as well.
Yeah.
So, we talked about it a lot now already. You're wrapping up the season. How, with these big events, obviously USDGC is still on your mind with Vermont First this weekend and so on and so forth, Hall of Fame, Pro Tour finale. How much will you slow down this off season? Do you see yourself hitting up any B or C tiers, or will you, essentially put the discs away entirely? How much do you see yourself slowing down?
Yeah, usually during the off season, my season's gonna end in Charlotte for the Pro Tour Championships, and I won't play a tournament until Vegas. So
okay.
So that's usually how it's been going for the past couple weeks. In the first month, maybe month and a half, I won't play much at all. Like, I'll just chill out. I'll go to the gym, work out, run, and I stay in Arizona, so I'm gonna go running, just stay in shape that way, and just kind of get my dose of other real life stuff, so to say, that most people say that I don't have time during the season to really do. But playing a lot of ball golf in Arizona, going and maybe joining. We're talking about joining a softball league. So just doing all kinds of different fun activities that just take my mind off of disc golf and, like I said, refuel the tank from the previous year. And so I've heard, you know, a lot of top professional athletes do that to recharge, so that way you can give it your all for the next season. You know, if you just do that constantly 100% of the time, you can't really. It's hard to spark that fire when you're playing. If you say you play disc golf for three years straight every year, by the time the second or third year rolls around, you're just going to kind of be going through the motions, not really like, you know, I like to build it back up to where it's like, all right, take a month and a half off, and then it's like, all right, I get the bug, like, oh, I want to start playing disc golf again. That's when you start training and practicing and grinding and hitting it hard again. So for me, that's personally what I've established to really get my fuel back for the next season, as opposed to just going right into the next training session or whatever it may be. So that's just my method that I use, and for me, it personally works, but maybe not for everybody. So it's just kind of for what I think.
So assuming our pal Yuli is on the mend, which we know he is right now, and assuming he's still in Arizona come, we'll say, you know, November, December, and so on, what do you see the two of you as he's healing and you're recharging and he's trying to strengthen and get better and practice? But what types of activities will the two of you be doing? Do I see golf maybe in mind?
Oh, yeah. We're
basketball?
Golf. Yeah. I mean, basketball, I hate to say it, but it's so fun and it's good cardio and it's so stupid, and we know that. But yeah, it's something where if something did happen in like December, January, you know, if it's hoping it's not too serious of an injury, we can have time. That's always what we joke. We're like, all right, play basketball until like December, January, then we'll stop. And that way, if we twist an ankle, we have like a couple months to recover. You know, like that's our thinking.
Wow.
Obviously, it's stupid, but like, you know, something could way worse happen and be out more than just 2 months. But it's just like anything. Like you hear about the top professional athletes, like, oh, Rory McIlroy broke his leg playing soccer. And the general public's like, oh, yeah, that's so stupid. Like, why would you ever do that? He's a millionaire and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, from my perspective, it's a totally different perspective than the general public. You can't just play. If you're him, you can't just play golf 100% of the time. You're going to get burned out. You have to do other stuff to take the burden off. And that way you can focus after you have your fun playing soccer and doing that stuff. Yeah, you have the risk of something, but you still have to live life and still have to enjoy and do other stuff to be able to do what you're good at and play professionally and really give it your all mentally. So, you know, I just have a totally different outlook on it, and I experience it personally from disc golf. You know, obviously I love it and that's my passion, but it doesn't matter what your job is. If you have a computer job and sit at your computer and you come home and all your kids are like, hey, can you come on the computer with me and do this and blah, blah, blah. You're like, of course, you'll probably do it, but you're going to be like, oh, my gosh. In your mind, you're like, I don't want to stare at this computer at all ever again in my life.
No, you need to change it up. You're exactly right. And Adam on the board is asking the same thing that I thought. Could you get into any kind of ping pong, table tennis tournaments, anything super competitive maybe?
It's funny, actually. We were just like, I'm staying with Drew and my buddy Jeff from Maine, and we were actually just talking about going to play ping pong. That's another thing I love. I love ping pong. I love hiking. But yeah, ping pong is something like, I would go to the local, like in Arizona, I might do it. Like go to the local club and play ping pong and try and check my skills against all the top Asian players. I'm sure they would crush me in like a heartbeat. I'm sure I'm like a 9. I would say like if I had to guess, not gauging it off of like really good players, I'm like a 950 ping pong player.
But like, really, you think you're that low?
Maybe more. I don't know. I'm probably not giving myself enough credit, but I just haven't. I think that's because I haven't seen a me in the ping pong world. Okay. If I saw someone like me in the ping pong world, I would think I'm like a 920 probably. But who knows? I could hold my own and be like a 1,000. I don't know.
Do you racquetball? Do you play racquetball?
I haven't played too much. That's like amazing cardio, something that I think would be awesome for the off season. But I haven't really played too much. I think I haven't found the right person to like, hey, do you want to play racquetball on Monday? Like just like golf, you have to have a good person like you can consistently call on a certain day like to play racquetball, and I haven't found them.
All right. Well, I would love one day. I'm not good. I don't claim to be good. I really enjoy it. It is great exercise, obviously. I would love to go play you one day. I think it would be fun.
I'm down.
I mean, you have such a huge advantage in that you're 10 times more athletic and you're good at swinging a racket. But I'm not terrible. I'm not good, but I'm not terrible is what I can say to that. So I think it would be fun. We might have to be a little loose on a few of the rules, but anyway. We just need a racquetball court on is there one on Nantucket Island somewhere? And one of the
with all the people there, I feel like that's a rich person sport for some reason in my mind. But so it strikes me as one. So I'm sure one of the athletic clubs has one. That would
All
be
right.
good,
Well,
actually.
somewhere either there or in Arizona. When I come out for an Arizona stay for a few days,
Yeah.
we'll have to just go try it out once. I think it'd be a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
fun.
Yeah. You play
I've
ping
told.
pong or no?
I'm terrible at that. No.
Yeah.
I've told Simon if there
I
is
like how you
one
pointed
thing.
that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I got to go to something I have a chance in. I've
Right,
told
yeah.
Simon before that if there's one thing that I could see maybe beating him at because he's so gifted,
Yeah.
He's like, well, I don't know how to play. I'm like, exactly. There's my
There we go. We're on to something there.
so Smuggler's Notch, 4 rounds, 2 rounds at each this weekend. Of course, there's got to be a little bit of feels coming back from not just previous years, but also World Championships, which concluded 364 days ago. Worlds just wrapped up, 1 year ago, so to speak. Will you do anything differently, or is there anything that you thought about that maybe even you thought about from last year's Worlds? Like, oh man, I really, hole 9 really got me. I'm gonna throw a few extra shots here. Anything like that today?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things. There are certain holes I step up to that maybe at Worlds, like I noticed your game, and as players, your game changes. Certain shots, maybe there's a hole where you're supposed to throw a flex shot. Maybe at the time your flex shot game was off or something. And now this year, I noticed it for me. Like I set up to that hole and I just laced, through 3 or 4 drives and just laced every one of them. Whereas maybe at Worlds, one hole, maybe the hyzer flip game was a little better than my flex game. So certain shots and certain releases I feel more comfortable with certain times of the year. And I'll go through spurts where maybe for a whole year I'll be like, my hyzer flips are perfect. And I can still throw a flex shot. It's just maybe in my head it's, not quite as confident personally. So there's certain holes that I felt like, wow, I was kind of panicking to hit this gap at Worlds. Whereas now it's like bam, 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 where I feel like I'm going to hit that every time, 100% of the time. So just noticing the changes in my game a little bit is I definitely noticed that. And I noticed that when I go to a lot of different courses. Like
now, let me interrupt you quick and ask, do you feel like the change maybe last year as opposed to this year, exactly 1 year later, is it a comfort level with the different manufacturer now that you're with Innova? Is there just discs that maybe you're just a little bit more comfortable with that you weren't then, or do you feel like it was truly your form or your shot selection, or is it the comfort with the discs?
I think honestly, for me, I think it's just the way my game adapts. I think as a player, like I said, it's not really I don't think it's too much the company switch. I see what you're saying there. I think it's more of just like it doesn't matter what disc I'm throwing. It just matters like the angle that I'm used to throwing. So I think that with Latitude actually I noticed a lot that I was a flex thrower. For some reason I naturally, like through the 4 or 5 years I was with them, I just naturally threw a lot of flex shots. And now with Innova, I can throw the flex shots, but then also the hyzer flips for some reason. Like my hyzer flip game's starting to come back because I have like broken in T-birds and broken, like beat up rocks is like a perfect example of how I've changed my game with hyzer flips. So I think so that there is a little bit of a difference as far as all the different molds available to throw versus Latitude versus Innova. But I think more so it's just throwing the different lines with the different discs and my game evolving. And so it's, step up to each hole. I definitely noticed like, hey, this hole I was way better at last year because I threw this angle. I can still throw it, but it's like I'm confidence-wise and consistency-wise, maybe just a fraction. It's not even barely noticeable to the human eye or public when they're watching tournaments or whatever. But for me personally, it is. So it's kind of interesting to see like, this shot got, I feel better with, whereas last year it wasn't as good. And so that's the biggest thing I noticed coming back after a year off and coming back to the same tracks.
Okay. Well, and one of the last things I want to talk about as we wrap up all of the Nantucket weekend and this upcoming weekend, one thing that was really cool to see that maybe some of the general public doesn't know or recognize is when we're at the house in Nantucket, everyone rallied around so many of the other sports. When I arrived on Thursday, it was obviously the kickoff to the Bears and the Packers. Go Pack. And, everybody was, of course, and I think any NFL game, the opening night, clearly a lot of people get behind it. But then tennis absolutely dominated the television all weekend long, at least at our unit, our rental unit, where there were, 15 or 18 of us, whatever it was. But everybody was so into watching this tennis major go down. Is it just sports 24/7 for you, and is that fair to say for a lot of our top players that there's just so many sports fanatics?
Yeah, I think disc golf in general, like for some reason, if you're good at disc golf, you're good at a lot of stuff. You're good at ping pong. You're good at tennis. You're good at all these different sports. I think it's a hand-eye coordination thing, to where if you have the good hand-eye coordination, disc golf goes hand in hand with so many other sports. And I think that not just for me, but like you see with Simon and all, Yuli and Drew and all these super athletic, people, that is just, it's in our nature for some reason. And so for us as top players, we like, and also I think the other thing with the tennis that you were saying is, and like golf and all the individual sports and even just the team sports, you see these people that, like, even tennis, these people are getting showcased in a major, but you know how much time they're in practice they're putting in. And so it's so relatable to us that we're watching them after they showcase their skills and polish and practice and all the time. And we respect that. And so we, as top players in our professional sport, and I'm sure they do the same with, the tennis players, they watch golf and say, wow, like this guy put in, like Tiger Woods put all this work in, and now he's getting showcased at the Masters and winning. So it's like you share the moment because you feel all the blood, sweat, and tears that most general public don't feel. They just see the result and they just don't think about, like, all right, she maybe practiced for 2 years, 3 years straight to get to this point, or however long, and just grinded so long, and she's getting showcased and just showing off her skills now. So as a top player going through that, you see how it transfers over to other sports and how it affects other people, and how they handle pressure, how they handle adversity, how they handle the crowd noise after they make a great shot and they feed off the momentum. So all the little stuff that you don't realize as, maybe if you're not a top player that play under the pressure and play under the spotlight like that, for me, I soak that in and I really see that. And so I think a lot of other top players like Germ, Zach Melton, all those other people, they're top players in our sport also. So they really respect the same, someone like basically maybe equivalent to them in a tennis match, or a golfer that's, whatever that they can relate to, an underdog. So it's like, there's, for us, it's really cool to really have that. And so I've just always been a sports fan in general. And so I love football, basketball, anything that I can watch and get entertainment out. And I love it for the entertainment value and the fact that I like playing it too. So it's a double whammy for me.
Okay. No, fair enough. That all makes sense. I'm going to read through a couple of quick questions. Tonight's going to be a little shorter on my end personally before Johnny takes over. So I'll read you a couple of quick questions that came off the board.
Actually, I have a real quick question for Rick. You have lately been apparently the star of golfing with all these famous people, these famous athletes. You have had these people just lining up. One question is, are they reaching out to you? Are you reaching out to them? And question two is, who's next, or who would you like to golf with?
That's so funny, actually, because I just messaged one of my buddies today that you'll be probably seeing soon on Ultimate World, or maybe you guys will talk to you guys about it. But
Smashbox exclusive, give it to us.
Release. So we'll start with the Dylan, the White Sox pitcher. He's actually been talking. I've been talking to him for a couple of years now. Actually, we just haven't really had time. Like during his season, I've been busy, and vice versa. Like. So he's been in AAA, and he was in Arizona for the off-season spring training, the last couple of years. And I tried to link up with him, but he's been busy, whatever. So he hit me up trying to play around or whatever a couple of years back. And then where were we? We were in, I think we were around Worlds, a couple weeks before Worlds at Delwood in Chicago. And I saw that they were home, and he happened to have a day off from pitching or whatever. And so we ended up playing around, but we still kept in touch through Instagram messaging and stuff. And we're still friends. Like I talked to him a lot. Like he texted me the other day, like, oh, we're going out to play around. I said, oh, that's really cool. Like, and he was talking about how he's recruiting his buddies on the team, like to come play. So it's really cool to see that he really genuinely has passion for the sport, and he's talking to his buddies, talking to all the other White Sox players, trying to get them out to play. And they're loving it. So it's cool to plant the seed and see it sprout. And so that was cool with him. And then the next one is going to be a UFC fighter, Stephen Thompson, who's sponsored by Innova. And so I actually reached out to him, and he was super pumped. I sent him some discs. I dyed some discs for him. And actually my buddy did. And so we just kind of made the connection. I've been watching his UFC fights, and he's, been staying in touch. And he lives in South Carolina by my parents. So I'm going to be going home and just playing a couple rounds with him, hanging out with him. And I told him he should come out to the USDGC and watch. So he's probably going to be out there supporting and watching that. And so it's really cool just to stay in touch with these people. And like I said, I think I relate to them on such a good level, dedicating myself to disc golf like Dylan has to baseball, and to Stephen Thompson, like he has dedicated his life to UFC. So for me, we feel like I'm on the same level with them, and so I think it's something that they can totally tell, and if they can tell I'm genuine, and they can tell that, maybe we can even share stuff mentally, physically, whatever that work for them that maybe they can adapt. So it's definitely a win-win for everybody, and it's awesome to make the connections and stay friends with them through disc golf. So it's been a great, I've been making great relationships with these people.
Disc golf famous and then some. It's translating. I love it. No, and it's great because I think we all know when we see a post from you or any of our top players that then get in contact with somebody that's prominent in another sport or in any form of entertainment industry. Next thing you know, the conversations go back and forth, and they provide additional exposure, whether they're trying to or not. They provide additional exposure for our sport, and in some ways legitimizes what we have going on to some degree, at least, when they say, "Oh, I play disc golf," and everyone's like, "What? What in the world is that?" And the Penguins.
Goalie.
Sorry, I don't know his name, but that type of stuff, and those all help. All right, so I'm going to rattle off a few other quick questions, though. We talked a lot about actually being healthy and all those other things earlier. Whether it be Innova or any other sponsor, do any of our top players have covered healthcare coverage that usually comes from a sponsor, or is that usually taken care of on your own?
I haven't been talking too much about it, but actually Innova is there's a lot of different stuff in my contract, but actually that's one thing that is a stipend, to where I get a monthly stipend for health insurance throughout my 5-year contract. So
perfect.
It's something that I actually had in mind, and I talked to them about while I was negotiating with them, and they were super open about it, and so that's something that I'm super proud of, and super, it's definitely a good thing to know in the back of my head that I can have that if something traumatic happens, instead of
perfect
out on a limb.
And that's all a step in the right direction. 10 years ago that was crazy, and now I think on a case-by-case basis, different players, different sponsors, that's all something that's probably going to become more and more common. Sure. It won't be every player on every level of every team, but it's
I guarantee there's way more than there was even last year. There's maybe 2 or 3 or 4 as opposed to 0.
Okay. Our pal Luke Butch out of Thailand wants to know, what's the oldest disc in your bag right now?
1999 Bowling Green Open Rock.
Rock. I was going to say probably a rock, right?
Yeah,
okay.
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense. I'm going to keep reading down there. Do you feel like your mentality at Nantucket would have changed if any other top players were there? I mean, you had a good, strong field, but if a Kevin Jones or a Seppo or a Macbeth, if anyone else were there, would you feel like you would have taken the weekend or that tournament mentality any differently?
No, I would have done the same thing. Yeah, it was more. Yeah, it didn't matter the competitors or the players that were there. It was more just for my mental, clarity. That's the reason I did it. Not based on the competitors.
Okay. Which course in the U.S. do you feel is the most physically demanding? Course or top couple?
As far as like walking around.
It's physically demanding,
It's so hard because it's like we play so many, and I don't know, not that I'm bragging, but I don't really think of a single course that sticks out. Like, oh, I'm super gassed after playing this. But I think Blue Valley.
Yeah.
We don't really play that much anymore, but I remember playing that course. I think it has to do with the heat, but I think it also has to do with the hills and the
length. It does.
So,
10,000 feet up and down hills in Kansas heat. That's a fair answer.
A lot of long courses, but we don't play a lot of long courses that are hilly, like Blue Valley.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Great. Good answer. Ask why you moved. Why he moved from South Carolina.
So I moved from Fort Mill, my address, moved to Campobello, and people have been asking about that. So basically, my parents moved from Fort Mill to Campobello, and that's where all my mail goes. Not necessarily me in general, but that's where all my stuff is stored since I'm always on the road, and that's where my mail goes. So that's where my address naturally changed to.
Okay. Simple enough. Everybody thinks there's a big juicy story there, right?
Yeah, I'm buying land and developing a private course there now.
Talk about hand-eye coordination. Wonder Boy is high level. Okay. No, I mean, it looks like those were most of the questions. I know we don't normally take too many, but and Barney asked, does Ricky remember the old school Marshall Street Disc Golf Championship DVDs. Did you ever watch any of those? The old Marshall Streets that Steve used to put together?
Yeah, MSDGC. Yeah, I remember just watching Kale in one of them.
Yep.
Kale and Avery back when they were battling it out.
Exactly.
Avery was on the front of the cover throwing a sidearm on hole
5.
Hole 5. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
So that's just like a picture that sticks out of my head. They cover that with Avery and his calves probably showing. No, just kidding. Which go hand in hand. Avery and sidearms and calves.
You got it. Well, and as I was just telling the board, this weekend when I head over to Norway, people will be missing Eagle at Vermont, but both Eagle and Avery are going to be at the PCS Open in Norway, and I'm helping bring some coverage from over there. I'm super excited about it. So I'll see Avery's calves. I'm sure you'll probably want to go on like a hike. I don't think I'll go that far.
No, I know.
No, probably not. But I'm sure you'll want to like hike up a mountain or something. I'll be game for that. You got to work those calves. All right, Rick, anything you want to share? Thank some sponsors, thank some other individuals, anyone you want to thank and talk about as we close out here for you?
No, I mean, I just got to thank my sponsor, Innova. I mean, like I talked about, they supply me with all the great discs and Delta Disc Golf and my website. I've been putting a lot of time and effort into promoting my website and my Pro Pigs. I've just been promoting those a lot, throwing them great. So I just want to give them a shout out. And yeah, check out my website, SockyBomb.com. Been posting a lot of cool stuff. Got a new subscription program for all my Socky Bombers, I've been calling them.
Mm-hmm.
All the people that support me can support me through a monthly subscription. And that's that. And if you don't follow me on Instagram. I've been doing a lot better posting and promoting and doing all the best I can to be the face of disc golf. So thanks for everyone for all the support, and then looking forward to the future.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Being in Nantucket is its own fun, and then elevating it an extra notch by getting to hang out with you a little bit more than normal on any given weekend. It was
sleeping in the next bed over. That's not too far away.
Yeah, you got it. It was a lot of fun, and congratulations on a really solid performance. May or may not be called a vacation weekend, but you played 1050 golf and did what you had to do. It was awesome to see, and I wish you the best of luck in Vermont this weekend, and I'll probably be seeing you in a few weeks at one of the other big events.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate being here. You guys are awesome, and I can't wait to be on next time.
All right, appreciate it. Have a good night, Rick. See ya.
Thanks, Ricky.
See you, bye.
See ya. All right, there we go. Ricky Wysocki. I'm sorry, I'm kind of giggly. It was just so much fun this weekend, and not just like I said with Rick, but everybody at the house. Everybody's so gracious to hang out, and I feel blessed, even though I'm on the media side, but yet I'm friends with these guys. But yet I see them when I film them on the weekends. Like everyone was just really on another level of just normal, everyday, just super great people and interacting and laughs. And I learned to play a new card game, and just a lot of fun that happened off the course and all this interaction. And that's why both Ricky and I are probably a little smiley and giggly. It was a really great weekend. So again, thank you to the Nantucket Open. Thank you to Todd, Louisa, Barry, Mike, the entire crew, because this weekend is it's such a treat for so many of these competitors to be there and to mentally recharge a little bit, but yet still be in this amazing setting. You got to take a ferry to get to the tournament usually. I don't know. If that doesn't set you up for a fun weekend, I don't know what does. So, and yes, Jason, I know you said you have a disc that you want signed. I don't even need to tell him. He will absolutely sign it as long as you do it at an appropriate time. He will, I'm sure, gladly. Like I wouldn't, wait for him in the porta potty. But if it's after the round or more than an hour before the round and you see him, those would both be great appropriate times. Don't ask him on the backup on hole 7 though, or hole 6. Or 8. Yeah, don't ask him there, for instance. But anytime outside of the round, you're probably good to go. So. All right, Johnny. I don't have a heck of a lot. I know I just kind of, barreled through that interview with Ricky. We saw a little chatter. The other big event we talked about, though, this weekend, Tim Selinsky going on this weekend. Barry Schultz, Elaine King. Is there anything we're supposed to be surprised by there with those two taking down the event?
No, not as far as the winners go. Barry Schultz has Barry Schultz, and he's really good, and he's really good in the woods, and Elaine King just absolutely crushed her division. I mean, there's not a lot to say about it other than they performed extremely well. I know there was some off the course talk about the event in particular.
Yep.
J Ray brought up some issues, and I think we saw a few other people kind of jump on the bandwagon as far as maybe some issues or problems that the event had as far as being run as a PDGA major. I saw J Ray complain about, and some valid complaints were thrown out there, and that
sure
there were a few of the tees that weren't really up to, I would say, a PDGA spec. I think that was one of the big complaints. I think I saw a complaint that had said that there wasn't a lot of time between rounds to drive to the next course, eat a good lunch, have a chance to settle, and maybe get warmed up for your next round, that the times were kind of tight. There was a change in the middle of the round, or I'm sorry, not the middle of the round, the middle of the week, I think before the event, basically saying they were going to play, I don't know which course this is particularly, I don't know if it was Newton or if it was the 501, but they went from the blues to the whites in one course in order to, I think, accommodate better timetable so that they weren't pushing things back and causing big delays. And there were some issues, as it seems like there almost always is, especially with this kind of slightly remote courses, on porta potties, that there were one or two of the courses that had very limited bathrooms, and which affects the women 10 times worse than it tends to affect the men, which is really unfortunate.
But nonetheless, they should be offered.
They should be offered for everybody and everywhere. Yeah. And I'm just saying that it tends to have more of an effect on the women, as we of the male gender have usually a little bit easier way to accommodate ourselves. But so those were some of the big issues that I saw. I saw somebody complain about the payout, which I don't necessarily feel is a very valid complaint. It met PDGA specs from everything I saw. You could argue,
could it be more?
Sure. It could always be more.
Yeah, what event couldn't, right?
Yeah. So I mean, there were some complaints out there, so I'm sure. I don't know if you had any input on that, Terry.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tough because we're talking about so many people we know and or like, and sometimes I read what others say and I'm like, oh, that sounds spot on. I trust their judgment. Sometimes you roll your eyes and say they're totally off their rocker, and everything in between. And of course, this situation is like a lot of the others. I mean, and then you even have to look at some of the overall personalities. Some people are more often to take to social media and only point out negative. Some people always put a glowing, maybe cover on things, even if things weren't good. And so you kind of know people's tendencies and even their personalities. Again, those can come into play depending on who you know, what you see. I know it got as far as, like you said, J Ray made a post. He said that he was unhappy or displeased with a number of things. And then it got as far as Paul Macbeth kind of, I don't want to say piling on, I don't think that's the right word, but supporting said post and also kind of jumping onto it. And then I saw plenty of other posts that said everything was great, and some stuff's being blown out of proportion, or it impacted one division far more than another, and some of it was blown out of proportion. So I've seen a little bit of all of that. It's always, there's three sides to every story. And I reached out to Steve Dodge. I don't know if I think Steve Dodge was in fact, I think I thought it was a little crazy initially at first, I'll admit, that he's hosting MVP and then a week later hosting a PDGA major, the Tim Selinsky Masters event. And I even asked him, I said, I'm just curious, like what made you think to do such two big events back to back? And he said that he was approached by the city, the local visitors bureau, to bid on a major, and that Steve was willing to be part of it and to run it and to head it up. So there's a huge takeaway right there, and just that the fact that a city or a local visitors bureau is interested in disc golf and wants people to come to the community says a lot, because that's sometimes where we get grant money. That's sometimes where we get, extra accommodations and things that get taken care of there. Those are very important people to have, in your, I don't want to say just in your back pocket, but to have on your side. Visitors bureaus can then also go negotiate better rates for you. They can help get new courses installed. They can, there's so many things that come as a benefit of working with them, including, like I said, grant money. So I thought it was a tall task to run 2 big events back to back the way he did. But like you said, he met all the PDGA payout requirements, which are set forth by the PDGA. And he admitted, though, he said, I'd like to find his exact statement. He said that some of the tees at Newton Hill, he felt were, could have been, he said some of the tee pads could be better, and there was some broken glass on the course. He said that there was a bathroom, albeit it was about a 100-yard walk away, and he did let the players know it was okay to allow time for players that went to use it. But like I said, you could also turn around and say, who were some of the loudest complaints? And dare I ask, what did they shoot? Because you and I both know, you shoot a course record, some of that stuff you don't even think about. You're dialed, you're focused, and you're playing your game. Mm-hmm. You shoot very poorly by your own standards, and next thing you know, maybe this little tiny mountain just became this molehill became a mountain, and you need a place and a way to vent. Again, I'm not saying that's what happened here, but it's something to always consider, I think, when you read and hear some of the feedback that happens.
Well, I think Elizabeth Borg-Bowman, who, congratulations on your victory in FA 40, is on the board here, and she says that, and I didn't quite get whether she was clear. She said they kind of felt like an afterthought, and I don't know if she meant the FA division in general, or the
event,
or all the players, or all the players, or just the women. But I think one of the other complaints was that everybody, I think, knew this was a trophy-only event going in, but there were no trophies for the amateurs. So that I think that's a
valid complaint. Then
I 100% agree. That's a valid complaint, in that the only thing it's a major. If you come out on top, I want something physical to say I won this event, and I think that is a 100% valid complaint. So Elizabeth says all amateurs. She felt like the amateurs felt like more of a second thought to the pros in the event, and this is dubbed as a Masters major, not pro, not am, both. So in theory, they should all be treated equally. It's so to feel that way is never good, and I definitely think that some sort of trophy it's needed.
Yeah, and if that's how it's is advertised and or is pitched or promoted as being trophy only, having a large player pack or a valuable player pack is usually going to be part of that, and then having, I'll go as far as saying, even substantial trophies. When you're talking about a major, you should have, in my opinion, some form of a substantial, because you're not getting that, that funny money or that script or those vouchers or that AM cash, whatever you want to call it. Every region's different. I do feel like then extra emphasis should be put on the trophy if that's exactly what you're playing for. Now, but I also feel like that can vary. A major trophy that's at an AM only event versus, or a trophy only event, versus a C tier that's a trophy only event. Mm-hmm. Those two trophies don't necessarily have to match up. I think you need to gauge the tier of the event and the overall size of it.
And it looked like the pro divisions won mini baskets as trophies, which little generic for my tastes, but but it's hard to complain with the mini basket as a trophy. That I just kind of feel like that is I like to personally see for these majors a little bit more local flair, a little more style to some of the trophies, something not that you just can't, that maybe not everybody can just go and order and put a sticker on. And I'm not, trust me, I'm not disparaging Steve or the event. It's just a personal opinion. I always like
No,
that.
which is really tough, because I'll follow that up and say, Innova, for instance, and I'm just purely speculating for the sake of throwing ideas out there for everyone. Innova may have come to the event and said, "Hey, we'd like to sponsor the event. Obviously, this is named after the late Tim Selinsky, and as part of our sponsorship for the event, we would like to contribute a trophy basket for every single winner." And maybe that's one of the stipulations or offerings that they put on it. And then naturally you think, okay, yeah, trophy basket sounds great. So, I mean, we don't know all those details. So therefore I'm not going to get, worked up one way or another.
Of course
like
not.
You said, it would be great to have
Seth
maybe
Fenley,
a little bit of uniqueness, but
Seth Fenley said that each mini basket came with a medal as well. And the medals denoted the division that the player won. So that is very cool. I did not see that or in any of the pictures. Maybe I just didn't. They were probably wearing them. I just didn't see it and spot it personally, and I didn't notice anything. So that's very cool as well. So I think that's that's a little bit more of a custom trophy depending on the style and what it is. So I'm
sure.
I feel a little bit better about that now. Thank you, Seth.
Well, and it's always funny too. I'll say, and that's why clarification's great. But it's even funny because you and I, Johnny, have been around professionals that are handed a $200 trophy and like, yeah, great, I don't care. Like, this means nothing to me. Maybe because they win all the time. Maybe because they travel and they don't have a good place to store it or hang it.
Or it's a second place trophy.
Or it's second place, sure. And they're like, oh, yeah, cool. I don't care about this. I wish you would have given me the extra $190 and instead given me a disc or something, that's less costly. So it's like, it's just one of those kind of awkward situations where it's like almost no matter what you do, it's going to be really tough to please everyone in that sense. And I'm not trying to dismiss anyone's feelings, but at the same time, trophies can be tough no matter how you look at it. So anyway, and some are saying on the board, all I care about is the trophy, and I can understand that. It depends on where you're at in your skill level and in your career, because let's be real. Do you think Paul cares about like 80% of the trophies he gets? And it's not to rip on the event, but do you think Paul or Ricky really care about 80% of the trophies they get? Because if it's not out of this world insanely amazing, it's probably in the bottom of a box somewhere.
It's in a closet. I guarantee it, because we've seen it. We've seen that closet. We went to Ken Climo's house and saw the trophy closet where it was like, he opened it up and he's like, oh yeah, here's a world championship trophy. And like, he had a bunch of them, up on a mantle, but he particularly had so many of them that some of them don't make the cut, and you have to put them somewhere, and you don't want to get rid of them. And being in Florida, you don't really have a basement, so you've got maybe a crawl space if you're lucky. So he had a closet full of trophies, and I just remember thinking, oh God, it's just it's one of those funny things.
Anyway, enough on that. But it sounded like some people were certainly frustrated. It sounded like what I think needs to happen, and I believe Jay Redding said it best. We're continuing to set and establish standards. We want events and players to meet said standards, and when they don't, for whatever reasons, feedback needs to be given. And whether that's that's usually going to be best by going right to the event feedback form, or bringing it to your state coordinator or directly to the PDGA or wherever that might need to be. But the event feedback form, I always feel like, is absolutely the first place you need to start. I would just be real careful about what you're going to bother bringing to social media, because you could be really backing yourself into a corner or digging a hole, or be taken out of context, or have it get way worse than it needs to. Whatever the case might be, just know that sometimes you have a very loud voice and maybe a huge platform, and some would say, well, that's great, that's why they should take it there. Yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll chase off half the TDs out there because they're constantly berated. Who knows? I'm somewhere in the middle. I know how it goes. All right. So that's what we saw on that side. Congrats to all the winners, everyone that performed well. I'll admit I did not get a chance to see all of the details from the event. I saw who the winners were. Elizabeth, who's also on our board, letting us know she won. Congrats to her.
Going through some of the winners. I'll quickly rattle through them. In Pro Masters, as we stated, Barry Schultz won, followed up by MJ. And then Steve Rico. In Pro Masters 50 plus, we saw Patrick Brown, followed up by Brian McRae, and then Jonathan Baldwin. Pro Masters 55 plus, Bobby Jones, Robin Billig, and then Eric Rainey. Pro Masters 60 plus, Johnny Sias, what a stud. Doug Warner and Jeff Fielder. Then we move to Pro Masters 70 plus, where we get the ageless, even though the division keeps going up. I'm still going to call him the ageless. Dr. Rick Vokes, followed up by John Parkak. Maybe it's Parsak, not sure. And then in third place, Sylvia Vokes, his wife. They all played Pro Masters 70 plus. So congratulations on that. And Amateur Masters 40 plus, Ray Hill, congratulations, defeating Braden Coolidge. I'll rattle these off and then I'm gonna complain about something. Amateur Masters Women's 40 plus. Elizabeth Borg Bowman, congratulations. 50 plus Amateur Masters, Billy Ray Osborne, followed up by Jerry Dobbins. Amateur Master 55 plus, James Elkins and Michael Krieger. Amateur Master 60 plus, Mark Hauser, George Boderoga. That's what I'm going with. Boderoga. And Amateur Master 65 plus, Dave Linger and Wes Steer. So congratulations to all of you newly minted Masters Majors champions. Now my complaint. Mr. Gans, Steve Gans, I'm going to blame you because you're the only one that's there. They've changed the PDGA results page. They took away the plus and minus par. Your total score is there, but it gives you a place, a points. So how many points they got, which I think is new for the division. Go ahead and look at the results, Terry.
Yep.
The name, the PDG number, your rating,
all
your round totals, the total of all the your total score, and the prize money. There used to be a plus and minus that would tell you how many over or under par there were, because that's what we would use to add up. I would look at this every week and say, oh, he won by 7 strokes or 8 strokes. That's not there anymore.
So Steve Gans is on the board.
Oh, Steve. Oh, no.
And it says all you have to do is add /unofficial to the end of the URL.
Is that all, Steve?
It will... Okay.
Well, that's good to know.
I want to do it now to test.
That's a great hack. Thank you, Steve. Much appreciated for that, because
there you go.
Because I will definitely use that, because it's just easier sometimes to see that, to add the smaller numbers than it is the 3-digit numbers usually. So I will look at that. Terry, you were looking at me like you did not believe me.
No, it's been that way for a little while.
I swear it was last week or the week before.
No. It's been longer than that. Or maybe I was just thinking that I think while the event is going on, it shows that, but then when it's not. So now we'll wait for Steve Gans to clarify for us. But I feel like it's been that way for a little while now. It did not just happen since last week.
Steve Gans says nothing has changed, Johnny. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wrong, but I swear there used to be a plus minus and it was in red.
There used to be. But I feel like that's been a little while now since that's disappeared. Or maybe once the event is complete, it then takes those out.
And I would believe once it's official. And maybe normally we're only looking at them the Tuesday after the event where they're not quite official yet. But so Steve is saying that the results are processed much faster these days than they were in the past with the advent of instant event reporting last year. So it's red when it's unofficial and black when it's official. All right, well, I'm going to make sure to use the /unofficial from now on. So that's a good hack out there for anyone else, maybe that's doing a podcast that wants to look at the plus and minus scores.
So as it then follow up for everyone else that wonders what the heck we're talking about, Philip Tate says, correct, only during play can you see the plus or minus, as I was just referencing. And Marty from the PDGA says the score against par is always showed when the results are unofficial, but when it becomes official, it goes away. So that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Little things. It's really funny because normally, like I said, I will pull this up every week and I will go through the weekend's results, and they're almost always there. So now that we're getting quicker with a lot of these official and unofficial results, they're vanishing on me. I just need to be faster, apparently.
Yes, I wish I will say before we beat this to death and let it die. Then I would say I would love to see it even remain once they become official, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I
would love that column to stay there.
Yeah, I mean,
why not? Because if we go back, if we come to this event in 6 months and you're like, oh, Barry shot 209, okay, what was par for that? Like, you have no idea without scrolling over all 4 of the rounds and then doing the math. So I don't see the harm in leaving it there. And I'm sure we're going to get yelled at by our official PDGA viewers, right? PDGA employee viewers right now, but just leave it. Okay, he says, we'll do it just for you.
Thank you, Steve.
Right.
Yeah,
SmashBoxx exclusive.
Steve, some of us don't get that exclusive inside information like the official PDGA podcast, where they get all the hot rounds and all that other stuff that you feed them. We have to do our own math here, and we don't like doing math because we're not smart.
No, we don't have time for that. So anyway, so yes, I agree. I see no harm in it remaining there. So hopefully it can stay or can come back, however you want to word that. All you have to do is ask. He says,
either
Steve,
way,
be careful, because I know your wish list that others have assembled for you is hundreds and hundreds of items long. So be very careful when you say that.
Yes, and I want to give a shout out. Great job. I think we do it once in a while, but great job to everyone out at the PDGA. You guys bust your butt, and you don't always, not nobody, but very few people tend to look at what is being done in these little incremental updates and comment on it. And then for some jackass like me to be like, where's my numbers? You guys are honestly doing a great job. That goes for everybody but Marty Gregoire. So
yeah,
that guy.
Who's got time for that guy?
No, just kidding, Marty. You're my favorite.
Good cover. All right, and the PDGA was on site, of course. I know some were there to play. Steve Dodge also, in his little update that he provided to me, he had said that there were a couple of PDGA representatives there all weekend long, that they did just that. They busted their butt. They helped with setup. They helped with takedown. And they were to make sure that everything ran as smoothly as it could or should for the event. And he also had those kind words to pass along as well. Or at least he told me. I'll pass them along on my own, I guess. All right, Ace Run Productions, thank you for the super chat. The MX3 vs. Lion review is up. Give it a peek, Smashies. Terry's hat is on fire. Is fire. Yes, Nantucket disc golf hat. I was blessed with one of these this weekend. It is. I used to be a hat guy, and then I started not being able to wear one for all of the broadcasting type stuff that I do. But I'm a big time hat guy, and this hat has like the perfect height and profile. Some hats are too tall, some are too shallow. This one is the absolute. Yeah, sorry to sidetrack for everyone. I love this hat. Reach out to Nantucket Disc Golf. I know they have some old event shirts, hats, merchandise, stools, a ton of custom Nantucket Disc Golf stuff. So reach out, and I think some of it's even on sale, big time. So if you need Nantucket gear, make sure you reach out to them. All right, Johnny.
I don't know of much else that was happening in the PDGA or around the PDGA.
Any new releases? Big shout out, I'll say, as we look for any other news or updates or releases that were of note. I know, earlier we talked to Ricky about insurance and staying healthy and all those types of things, and no better person to help you guys get in disc golf shape and get ready. Someday I'll catch up with him. But Seth Muncie from Disc Golf Strong, I know, just had a birthday a couple days ago. So thank you, Seth, for everything you're out there doing for all of our disc golfers. I saw a little intro video from him the other day of him basically yelling at everyone, saying that sit-ups are not good for you and we shouldn't be doing them. And then he's got a whole breakdown of that. So I thought that was really interesting and caught
I was
certainly
always
caught my attention.
I'll have to look at that because I was always told sit-ups were bad, but like smaller crunches are better. That a full sit-up will be is bad for your back, but like a smaller crunch is just as effective, but less bad for your back. And I don't know if that means it's good for your back or it's just less bad. But I'm not the expert,
Well, you'll explain it.
I will go and watch that. So we do have a little bit of PDGA news actually. On September 3rd, so looks like last Tuesday. Yep, the board of directors held a vote, and we have the board of directors officers were elected. So we see our president, Justin Menichelli, vice president, David Foss, treasurer, Robert Decker, secretary, Nate Heinold. So congratulations to everyone who was elected to the board. And then I'm not going to bother rattling these off, but if you want to go out there, the PDGA player and rookie of the year stats were updated. You can go out and check those out. The rookie of the year contenders are the ones that are highlighted in orange. Leading that right now, it looks like it's Garrett Everson in MPO, and Christine Jennings in FPO. So congratulations. And no surprise, Paige and Paul are leading in their respective divisions.
I told you those PDGA Player of the Year stats were all biased.
Rigged.
Totally rigged with those guys that just keep winning.
Why does winning give you more points than trying hard? I don't know.
I know.
I tried really hard.
And speaking of trying hard, I know Tom McManus, PDGA 1276, he was out there this weekend at the Masters event. He had a great time. And when he was done playing, he then went out and did some spotting. So he was one of the handful that I know pulled some double duty out there. So thanks, Tom McManus. Awesome to know you're always giving back, no matter what part of the country you're in. He usually does that on our side of the country, but he was doing it over there as well. All right, so also some of the conversation that I know has taken place, was there a schedule release for majors? Did that cross my desk at one point today, the desk I don't have, what it's saying? I feel like that I saw that somewhere. Johnny, do you have anything on the website?
It's not. If it is, it's not on the website. I saw Elizabeth was talking about some conflicts between one of the women's global events and the Tim Selinsky next year, but there's nothing on the PDGA announcements or their news page, which is usually where I find all of that good information, unless it's on the home page, but I don't see it there either. So that might not be public yet as far as website. That maybe it's just gone out to people, and then they have not put it on the website. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. No, I know something about schedules and majors being released, and I know it was actually, I saw it at some point on my phone today. So there had to have been some chatter. Unfortunately, I just don't know where it is. So if somebody has it and knows exactly where it is and can direct us to it, that'd be great. I know that they're trying to do just that, though. Make sure all the major stuff is taken care of. And then, as we know, A tiers and national tours and in the past pro tour events usually have then a consideration for when they get scheduled, and then after that it's A tiers, B tiers, C tiers, so on and so forth. So knowing that it's September right now, it's crazy to think that we're just a few months away, obviously, from 2020 and all that scheduling. So
2020, wow.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. Right now, I'm going to stop everybody. Don't make any eyesight jokes at all next year. None. No 2020 jokes. Not one.
Oh.
Don't give in. Don't do it.
Is ABC's 2020? Is that still a show? I assume that's been around forever, right?
Maybe.
Because they're gonna. I mean, they're set up to have a field day next year as well, or a field year, if that's a thing.
Maybe if it's not, it'll come back.
And we are not going to carry, well, I personally will not be carrying into tomorrow's date, even though I am on the East Coast and it's only 30 minutes away from me. But of course, thoughts and remembrance and everything else that goes along, everyone, impacted by 9/11, the whole world, not just anyone local to that area, but just everything that is part of the whole, the entire 9/11 experience and tragedy and triumph and everything else in between. Special day tomorrow. We won't be on the air for it, but I guess thinking ahead to it, it's interesting. The last 3 or 4 years, I've been on the East Coast. Sometimes I've even been in New York. I've now flown in or out of New York on 9/11 in the last few years, just with the way the scheduling has worked out. And it's always kind of just a really, and I visited the 9/11 memorial a couple of times in New York. It's just a really surreal feeling and experience because you and I, Johnny, we're from the Midwest. We were both in college, or were you at Peterbilt working a job probably that day?
Yep, I was literally working at Peterbilt at that point.
Yeah, and I was working at a software company doing software type stuff myself. We were both doing IT stuff as we were in college, and just incredible. So anyway, I don't have anything planned or prepped or discussed about that, but knowing we're just on the eve of it certainly conjures up lots of feelings and memories for plenty. And we thinking of everyone for it. All right. I've said it before. I'm on the road. I leave for Norway tomorrow. I'm excited to get moving and to do all the stuff I'm going to do over there. I'm excited to see how this weekend shakes out for the rest of the crew. 4 rounds. I think three of them are going to be live on Smashbox, or the Smashbox crew working with the Disc Golf Pro Tour. The news that's been discussed a few times, both Madison Walker and AJ Risley will have some part of the broadcast. So look for them. I think it's going to be kind of a sideline reporting type role. I know AJ was also talking about putting together maybe a few kind of smaller pieces that he could then shuffle over to Johnny V that could get played throughout the weekend. He's working on that. So best of luck to them. And I think we're going to have Nate and Val in the booth from Oregon. So sounds like it should be a great weekend for a great broadcast.
I believe it should be.
So super looking forward to it. I'm sorry I'll miss it, but
we'll wrap this up. We'll go into the after show. We'll do a quick giveaway. Tonight we are giving away our disc member box. Look at this. It is I believe it's the Trilogy disc member box. There is an Opto Explorer in there. I had to write it down there, and a DD shirt. So for those of you that are Patreon supporters or that knew ahead of time, because I've already grabbed it, to go to SmashBoxxTV/weekly giveaway. That is the official weekly giveaway. I only say that every couple weeks, but if you go there, you can be entered in as well.
All right. Well, that's how you can get at it. All right, Johnny. Do you don't have any special other guests? You should line up somebody.
No, I'm good actually. Anyone that reaches out to me, I'm probably going to ignore them, so I can I can call it an early night for once and get some sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night last night. Couldn't get back to sleep, so I'm good. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to call it and let you guys go. I appreciate it. Oh, Seth Fenley says I won't be at the Pro Tour event. It's almost like the world is ending. That's what I was thinking. Terry and I both won't. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, neither of us will be there. Somehow the show will go on as Smuggler's Notch, the greatest #1 family-rated fun resort and amazing place in September ever. Somehow they'll survive without us, Seth. I hate it. I'm sure it'll be just fine. So I want to thank our supporters. I know Ace Run. Go out and subscribe to his channel. He's got some stuff going on. He was a super chatter tonight. Big Putt Bill Sherman. I'm going to guilt you into super chatting. You always do. We appreciate it. But also Disc Baron. We didn't have a digital green room officially tonight, but thank you, Disc Baron, for supporting us week in and week out. Also for supporting my FPO coverage and other coverage that I bring to you guys. He's a huge supporter, and I thank him for doing just that. So thank you to all of our super chatters, and as well as everyone else in here. I'm going to let you guys go. Have a good night. Enjoy Vermont and all the beauty that it has to offer over there at the Green Mountain Championships, presented by Grip Equipment and Discraft. Thanks, and good night. We'll see you next week when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV. everyone, and welcome to SmashBox TV's After Show. Shout out, Terry wanted to get going, and he's got it up, I think, nice and early, so he can go to Norway tomorrow. So not a rough leading. I am super depressed right now, as I just read on my phone that popped up. It says Brewer Slugger and NL MVP Christian out for the year after fracturing his kneecap. I heard he hit him in the knee and he was pulled up, but Nick has fractured it and he's out for the year. So say goodbye to any chance the Brewers have. Welcome to football. I can now ignore. So my audio is choppy. I don't know why that is. Hold on, let me check. All right, that's going to be a little better. There was a noise gate that I must have been playing with. Nope, it's still being stupid. Is this any better? Really? If I turn off the compressor, that's not much better either. Something's really suppressing the audio. Is this any better? Wow. Well, I guess the good thing is we won't have to do too much for this. Not sure why. I'm looking at all my audio levels and they all look good on one side, but the other side doesn't. Hello, hello, hello. Is this any better? Yeah, that's way better. Terry's mic works a lot better than mine right now. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, Terry's mic is way better than mine for some reason right now. Well, that's really strange. And now I'm all cut off. I mean, I don't like that at all. Oh, that's going to be better. That's going to be way better. That is going to be way better. Silly Terry. I'm going to blame him. We're going to do that. And then that as well. And oh, that's so much better. So when Terry's on Skype, in order for me to talk to him, I need to mute one channel specifically. So I had that muted, and I forgot to bring it back when I went live. So let's try this again. Watch this. This will be fun. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the After Show ×2. That'll be better. I'll just get rid of all that other stuff because it doesn't really matter. I just talked a little bit about the Brewers and how sad I am, and that's about it. It's going to be a short after show in general. We are going to be giving away our disc member box tonight. So I hit the button, yes. Sorry, headphones users. I got it all working again. We have the disc store, disc member, the monthly service where you can subscribe for $25 and they send you anywhere from $40 to $60 worth of stuff. This month is a trilogy. There's an Opto Explorer in here. There's a t-shirt from DD. There's a U-Disc subscription. There is like 2 other things I saw in the picture and I haven't opened it. It looked really nice. I want an Opto. Well, I don't care about Opto because I don't know any difference, but I want to try and explore because that's what I use in Disc Golf Valley when I play it, which is very rarely anymore. That fad for me kind of came and went really fast. But anyway, what else do we have? Do we have anything I always say it will be short. If we can get you guys worked up on something, then I'll talk all night, says John Carver. That is true. Sometimes we lie and we say it's going to be short, and it's not. One of the things I'm very upset about right now, other than the Brewers I just found out, is I can't find my AirPods. And it's like first world problems. And you can go to the website, the Find My iPhone website, and they say that the last place they were is right here on Saturday before they died. And I think they're somewhere in my house, but I've checked all the couch cushions. I've checked all the normal places. I'm going to have to, I think I even checked all my dirty laundry and check for pockets and stuff like that. And I can't find them, and it's frustrating me. So, Apple announced their new iPhones today, which kind of had me thinking about that in general. And I'm on an iPhone 7S right now. I think it's a 7S. I don't think it's a 7. Maybe it's an iPhone 7. I don't know. I've had it for a long, long time. And I'm going to finally I'm going to force my HR department to get me a new iPhone. So as the IT manager, you can do that. I've had these AirPods for like 2 years. I haven't lost them. And like I said, the website said as of Saturday at 1:30, they were here. And I went to my Google locations to trace back my steps on Saturday. And the only place I went on Saturday afternoon was to get my vacuum up my car. So unless I somehow dropped them and got rid of them out of the trash or something like that, maybe they fell in my pocket or something dumb, then that's the only way I can think that I would be missing them. So I don't know. But it's annoying me because I really love them. Other things that have happened to me this week. On Friday, I took family, my wife and my son, not my young daughter. We went to go see Penn and Teller here in Milwaukee, which was phenomenal. It was a lot of fun, and my son was super excited. He got to get up on stage with a bunch of other kids, and they did a lot of the routines you'll see on their Fool Us show, but it was really awesome to see it live and in person. I've always wanted to see Penn and Teller. Every kid, it feels like almost every kid, like when they're between 8 and 12, goes through a magic phase, as I did. And my son has as well. So he got his picture taken with Penn, even though I would have preferred to get our picture taken with Teller, but we didn't realize when everybody was filing out, we just got into some line, and it turns out there were 2 separate lines, one for each of them, but got a picture taken with Penn from Penn and Teller. Thought that was pretty cool. And overall, the show was phenomenal. If you get the chance, please go out and check it out. Elizabeth Bowman, we were talking about the schedule. She says, for 2020 Zelensky, everyone in Missouri wants to make sure there's good attendance at Harmony Benz, and that's the disappointment from this year. The prosams are mitigated. So it's kind of I could see how that could be a problem. Brad Aarons asked, did I fool Penn and Teller? I did not get the chance, and nor would I probably have. They didn't really, they didn't do the whole fool me shtick. They did their magic show, which, was very, very cool. Again, if you get the chance, please go check it. Let's see. Is there anything else on the board? I'm going to do our giveaway very soon. Like I said, it's the disc member box. Discmember.com. Let them know that SmashBoxx sent you. If you do that, and we will show your support for SmashBoxx. I am putting together a spreadsheet right now of the $10 clothing level supporters. I'm going to send that to Miles hopefully tomorrow so he can get those shirts printed up. They're going to be a nice blue polo shirt with a white SmashBoxx logo on them. That should be all it is. No, shouldn't say anything. It'll just be the symbol, the SmashBoxx box, so to speak. And that's going to go out, once Miles gets them all taken care of. So, week or so. And then there's somebody out there who I keep messaging to get their size, and that they're just going to get an XL now because they have not responded to me. All right, so I am just, we have 203 users in our Patreon and our weekly giveaway. 203 supporters, 203 people. And I'm just going to do the very first number that I draw. We very rarely do the first number. So that number is 111. So it's 111. Let's scroll up. Lyle O'Ross. Lyle, you are this week's Patreon giveaway winner, so I will reach out to you. It's been a while since you've won. I don't think I've rattled off your name in quite a while. So congratulations, Lyle, and we'll get that to you. We'll get this nice box to you at some point when Terry comes back. Terry's in charge of all shipping. If you haven't gotten anything, it's because I've sent him all the stuff. I know I have, so that's on Terry. But this will have to wait until he gets back because it's in my possession. It's easier if we keep everything together financially wise, so he can do all the billing and stuff like that. Do we have anything else out on the board that we want to talk about before we wrap this up tonight? It is 10:50 Central Time. I'm trying to think if there's been anything fun, or I haven't really watched too much TV, so not a lot of pop culture going on. Matthew Q says I never got a patron disc. Matthew Q, when did you sign up? We haven't done one yet this year. If you signed up this year, it'll be going out towards the end of the year. We usually put it out in like December-ish or so. So if you, we do it once a year for the patrons who, support us at the $3 and up level. So thank you. Shout out to all our patrons. So if that's the case, you will get it later this year. I think this will be our last year at this style. So probably very similar to what the other 2 years are. And then we're going to pick a new art style, and we'll have a different trilogy of discs. So I'm not trying to wrap up the shortest after show Ace Run. I don't really, doesn't really matter to me. My daughter woke up at like 3 a.m. and I heard her get up, and then I heard her use the restroom, go back to bed. And then I just sat up, and for whatever reason, I couldn't turn my brain off. And so at about 4 a.m., I got out of bed, went downstairs, laid on the couch, couldn't sleep there, looked at my phone for 45 minutes, finally got to sleep about 5 a.m., just in time for everyone to wake up at 6 a.m. So, that's life. Oh, did we talk about Joel Freeman at Maple Hill? Maple Hill last week. We talked about Joel shooting the 17 down at Nantucket. Terry and Ricky brought that up. So, Disc Golf Chick says, great show tonight. That's because I didn't talk much. No. When Terry is remote like that on the Skype, it's sometimes easier if I just fade back because of the Skype audio issue. So with him and the guest, it just makes it easier if I don't have any audio or noise coming from this side. Otherwise, what it does, it tends to cut out their audio depending on the volume levels. So when Terry is remote like that, I will step back even more out of the interview than I usually do. Pocket says, is Terry's disc golf collection really as big as he claims it is? Yes, actually. That's one thing he's not exaggerating on. It is a little bit ridiculous, and it's been a while since I've been at the shed, so to speak, his rental space. So I haven't seen the collection in a while. But yes, he has a metric ton of discs, lots and lots and lots of discs. And you go into his house, and he has lots of discs in there, and they're just everywhere. Sometimes they're nice and organized and whatever, but there are some times that just you walk in there and you think, how does your wife not kill you? Like you could just grab any disc and use it as a plate. He just has discs and collects them, and his office has stacks of discs in them, just appearingly random. And he'll tell you, it's like, oh no, I had this one because so-and-so wanted, a second run TL with this stamp on it, and I knew I had it, so I grabbed it. And not weird, just hoarder-ish. Brad asks, is it possible for SmashBoxx to stream at 1080p if money is not an issue? Live coverage. Yeah, because this is right now 1080p 30. And yeah, it is. We can. The Disc Golf Pro Tour is actually put out in 1080p 30. I've usually if we're running something off our channel, I have usually downscaled it to 720 on my side. So the cameras pull it in at 1080 for GBO, for Worlds, and anything that Smashbox usually does on their channel, on my channel, our channel. I downscale it to 720 because it just takes up less processing power on my computer. I feel like I can run more things at once. The last round of Maple Hill, I accidentally ran at 1080p 60. So it was 60 frames a second. And I could tell my computer was bogging down and dropping frames at times. So I haven't gone back and looked, but I did see on the Roku side, for the people that are watching on Roku, I think it was dropping frames. I don't know if that translated to YouTube. I didn't see any complaints about it, so I didn't. By the time I noticed that I was running at 1080p 60 for whatever reason when I opened it, I don't know what I did, but it did it at that. That is the case. So we can do it, and we do it. But I mean, 1080 is only as good as bit rate. We're pushing through at 4 meg per second at HEVC codec, which is a good codec, and it tends to wash things out a little bit. And I would love, if money weren't an issue and we had as much data as we wanted to use, I would love to be pushing out at 6 to 8 meg per second of HEVC codec, which is it's a newer codec. It's H.265, and it requires about half, give or take, what you're filming, the data costs of H.264, which is what we've done in the past. So a little bit of nerd talk there, but ultimately, if money weren't an issue, 1080p 30 at 8 meg per second is what I would love to push out at, and that would be that is doable, certainly. Marcus Burke says, JVD, what exactly do you do in real life other than IT? I mean, like, what do I do in general for fun? Or like, my job is, I'm an IT manager for a title company, and I do that. I'm a chauffeur to my son now, who is in soccer and swimming, as is my wife. And that's kind of what I do. I honestly, and this sounds really silly because I know Ricky was just talking about, if you work in front of a computer all day, the last thing you want to do is come home and help your kids and whatever on a computer. That's not me. Like, I will come home and sit and do research on my computer for hours. My wife will put something on, I'll grab my phone, and I'll just start researching all the streaming stuff, catch up on any updated news. I really like to look at graphics packages. And figure that stuff out, because I'm working on a better graphics setup for Smashbox in general, and hopefully the Pro Tour for next year. I mean, I'm a nerd through and through. I wish I had a little more time for video games, but I have not prioritized that in the past couple of years. So I'm going to have to get up on my Nintendo 64 Mario Kart. There was a big discussion about that on the board today about who can beat whom. And I'm just going to say I'm going to shred. No one's going to stand a chance. Not going to happen. So that's kind of what I do, Marcus Burke. So just like you, I'm a dad. So the Roku numbers, Maker Cell Mark says the Roku's numbers are huge. I don't know if you meant huge, but I don't think they are. I just haven't heard a lot of people talk about how they watch it on Roku. I know there are some, but they're not nearly what our YouTube numbers are. Let's see here. H.265 is capable of 4K, asks Brad. Yes, it totally is. 4K, I don't believe is... So the cameras that the Pro Tour has used in the past, I don't believe they are... Maybe I'm wrong there. I wasn't sure if they were actually able to output at 4K out of the SDI, which looks like one of the old coax screws, kind of, except it's a little bit more of a plug. It locks in, but it kind of looks like that old school, what you'd screw into the back of a TV for an antenna. I don't know if the Pro Tour cameras are able to output that at 4K or if they're just able to record locally on their SD card at 4K. I don't believe that the broadcasting units that we use are capable of 4K. And for 4K, you want at least probably a minimum of 10 meg per second, probably closer to 15. To get a really good 4K signal, because again, we 1080p is only as good as your bit rate. It's just kind of how it works. Like, we could do 1080p at 1 meg per second and it'll look like trash, and everyone will complain. But we'll see. I mean, there's I don't know what next year is going to hold yet. MPS equals FPS. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Brad Aarons asks, Switch Link's Awakening is something you'll have to know about very soon. Get a Switch. I have a Switch, and I'll probably get Link's Awakening. True story. My daughter, who I've talked about her a little bit, she's a special needs child. She's very much a creature of habit. So you throw her out of her routine, and all hell breaks loose. And lately, our routine is we get into the car in the morning for school. I drive her to school, and we get in there, and the first thing she says is, "Dad, can you put on Zelda?" And that means on my iPhone I have the Zelda Symphony of the Goddess, basically the Zelda music as an orchestra, because we went to see that a couple of years ago as a family, which was awesome. And so I listen to that every damn day. I never thought I'd get sick of hearing the theme song to The Legend of Zelda, but it is forever burned into my skull. And I would be fine if I never, not never. I'd be fine if I didn't hear it for months. So we'll see. But that is our routine. Get dressed, get her shoes on, get out to the car, put on Zelda for the 8-minute drive it is to her school. If I watch on my TV at home, it's on a Roku, but using the YouTube app on Roku, says Ryan Pilcher. Yeah, I don't know. There's the Disc Golf Network app on the Roku, which I believe plays it as well, which goes through Foxbat. Honestly, I haven't looked into it at all. I don't know exactly how it works. I usually just, before the show, I hit go live. I hit go live on the YouTube stream, so it pushes it to both streams, and it goes from there. And we have another gentleman who I think sets all that up. So, what do you need to get 10 meg per second? Good cell signal and a lot of data. I'm trying to think. Right now, at 4 meg per second, we go through 1.8 gig of data per camera per hour. Most data lines cap out at about 22 gig before they throttle you. So we need to have X amount of lines in order to make sure we can do that. So at 10 meg per second, you're looking at going through, that would be 3.6. You're looking at about 4.2, 4.4 gig per hour and per camera. That means every hour I basically go through a full line of data on our Verizon line. That wouldn't be good. That'd be bad. I would need a lot of lines of data. That would clearly it would triple. That would triple our data bill per month. Ugh, that would not be pretty. Nathan says he watches YouTube at 480 on his phone and it's plenty clear. Yeah, honestly, that's why no one has ever complained to us when we did GBO and Worlds that we were pushing out at 720. Because, again, at the bit rate that we do it, you hardly notice the difference. You really don't notice the difference. And I think it's about 50% of the viewers are watching on mobile. So 720 versus 1080, it doesn't even matter to most people. It really only matters if you're blowing it up on a big TV through the YouTube app. And so the 720 at good resolution even then, most probably aren't going to really notice a difference. So we'll see. And obviously, I want to go to 1080, and I'd love to do it frequently. We need drone follow flight on every throw. Yeah, I don't know how that would. I don't know how that would work. I don't think we can. I thought it was funny. I read an article. Actually, it wasn't an article. It was like a tweet on Sunday night or Monday night. It was Monday night. Monday Night Football had a new graphics package. And it made me chuckle because they have the bar at the bottom with all your stats, the score, the timeouts, whatever. The new down and distance graphic, which, 3rd down and 4 to go or whatever, was yellow with black writing. And it kept sliding in every time there was a new down. And they got such a kickback of complaints because everybody thought it was a yellow flag warning, because that's what we've been really trained to see when we watch football, that they ended up pulling it at halftime. There was that much of a response to a graphic that they had prepared ahead of time that they changed it mid-broadcast. And to me, I thought that was crazy. I was like, wow, like not even just for next week. They just pulled it. And I wish I would have. I didn't watch the Monday Night Football games, but I kept track of them because I was busy beating Ian from Central Coast at fantasy football this weekend. Shout out to Emmanuel Sanders. Anything else on here? Kenny says that Monday Night graphics package was awful. Yeah, I didn't see it, but I had heard that it was bad. And someone says they laughed when they changed it mid-game. Yeah. I just imagine, there was a little bit of kickback for Jomez this year on their new graphics package when they had all of the whole numbers and everything, and they were sliding all around, and a lot of people didn't love that when they first saw it, and I think people are used to it now. I still don't love their the follow flight spinny thing. I think it's a little gaudy, but it's that's their channel, and they're welcome. They're welcome to do that. They have Juan, who is phenomenal at doing graphic stuff. I would steal him in a heartbeat if I had the chance. He is a really good graphics guy, and he puts out a lot of that stuff you see on social media. That's all. A lot of that, not all. A lot of that is Juan from Overstable, and he does some great work. And I'm always excited every year when I get to see what their new graphics package or style looks like, because inevitably you will usually see other media companies kind of pick and choose some of the things they like and maybe emulate it a little bit. So I'm always excited to see what they do. What am I more excited about, Watchmen or his Dark Materials series? Probably his Dark Materials. I saw the Watchmen movie, or and I've read the graphic novel many years ago. But for some reason, I can't get that excited. Whereas if his Dark Materials looks better right now, but we'll see. And Apple also announced their TV streaming service at $4.99 a month, and there's really nothing there that looked interesting for me. No Marvel. I mean, Apple's going to treat it like Nintendo treats video games. No gore, no blood, family friendly. It is going to be. You're not going to see a ton of gritty, realistic stuff. You're going to see comedies, maybe some dramas, things like that. That's what you're going to find on the Apple Plus channel or whatever it is. How are Skip A stats / users compared to last year? Any updates planned? Updates to Skip Ace. My web developer has told me for the past 2 months that he has the multi-league picks done. And he just has to upload them and put them on the site. And I keep telling him, cool, do it on a weekend because the events have locked. Most people aren't picking for the next week. If there's a problem, I got a couple days. And every week he just doesn't get to it and doesn't do it. And I can't really complain. I haven't paid him anything yet. I'm not going to until he does it. I think next year, the big push for me will probably be the look. I need to update the look of it. It's very old looking, and I'd like to upgrade the UI, UX, whatever you want to call it, to make it look nicer. And that's kind of the big update. And I mean, I'm sure I'll have more features. I've got a whole plan in my head, but I don't know how realistic it is and how legal it is even. But it has to do kind of like gambling, but not really. Another time. That's a whole thing I'll get into at some point. USDGC predictions. Paul. That's my prediction. Paul is going to win. I think he's going to complete the sweep of the majors this year. He's going to be dialed in, and I think he's going to win USDGC. I think Kevin Jones is going to do well. And I think Eric Oakley's going to do well. Those would be like Eric Oakley's kind of the dark horse. He's been playing well lately, and I think that's a good course for him. What about user numbers for Skip Base? We had a lot more users this year. I haven't honestly broke it down as far as how many this year versus last year. I do know there was more this year, and I'm hoping to grow it again next year. And keep doing that. Again, there are probably some changes I need to make as far as options when creating leagues and all this other stuff, because there's still a few quirks in it that I found that need to be fixed, some bugs. So maybe a few more points with the point pool for Skip Ace, says Sam. Yeah, last year we had more points. I think last year we had 6,025. This year we have 6,000 ratings points to play with. I treated last year kind of like a tester, and then this year I lowered it just a little bit. I don't know if I want to go up or not. I mean, it's a little tough this way. It's not impossible, and it kind of forces you to at least make one, if not two, mid-level picks that are going to bite you. The more points you give, the flatter the scores get, and everybody picks the same people. If you have an unlimited budget, you're all picking Paul, Ricky, Eagle, Kevin. That's it. Maybe throw a Simon or a Nate in there or a Germ, but the more points you get, the flatter the results go. So having less points definitely spreads out the scores. And I need to think about the scoring point system as well. It's another thing. I'll probably reach out to users and kind of get a general feeling for that. It was a great service. Thank you. Yes, I enjoy doing it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully expanding it in years to come. We need to hear from the other Paul. How is healing? You can, Christopher, who was talking about Paul Ulibarri, you can check back, I think a week or two ago, we had Paul Ulibarri, and he talked all about how he's healing and what he's doing. And but I'm sure we'll catch up with him again, probably closer to USDGC. We'll kind of get his input and just kind of get a feeling for how he's doing at that point. I think we checked in with him right after Worlds. And yeah, he is getting there. He's definitely making headway. He said he's ahead of time. He's a month or two ahead of schedule, which is great. But I worry, as I do with any player and their injuries. You don't want to push it. Just take your time and heal up properly. So Alpha Zuma says, yeah, his club had troubles navigating Skip Ace. I don't doubt it. I look at it, and of course I developed it. I designed it. My developer did a lot of the back end stuff now, but as far as the graphics and how it looks, for the most part, I did all of that, and I could kind of see that. Once you have a general idea, it's not hard at all. But again, a lot of people think the biggest problem that people have is there's two big problems. They make a pick in one league, and they're picking in the wrong league. So you want to let everybody is entered into the standard Skip Ace league. It's just like a default league. And then you join, we'll say, the Ultra World League or the Disc Golf Answer Man League, whatever. You make a pick in the wrong league because you're not seeing the disc golf. You're not seeing what league you're in. So inevitably, I would, in the beginning of the year, I'd get calls or messages say, hey, I made the picks in the wrong league. Can you move them over? Most of the time, for like the first week or 2 or 3, I did it. No problem. I understand. But at some point, I kind of cut that off because I couldn't. It's a lot of requests, and it takes a little bit of time to copy over those. I'm hoping next year to have a little bit better admin system, so maybe I can do that with a push of a button. but we'll see about that. So I can understand how it could be a little confusing. The other thing that gets people is after they make their picks, and they want to change their picks, inevitably everybody forgets to change the alternate. So they go and like, hey, I've got X amount of points. I exchange Ricky for Paul, or Paul for Ricky, we'll say, and then they're over their cap points and they can't submit, and it doesn't update, and they keep trying, and it doesn't really give them a great error message. And inevitably, what everybody has to do, or what I just tell them to do, I say just 0 out everybody and start from scratch. And it always works, always. So those are the 2 big complaints that I need to work on to make it a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit better, probably better error messaging, and a little bit clearer as far as how that all works. So steps, baby steps. All right. I think that is about everything. Yeah, Terry just bounced. He's got a long flight tomorrow, like a 10-hour, 12-hour flight or something that he's got to get in the morning. He's got things to do. So I'm going to call it for tonight. I want to thank everybody who joined me for the after show and listened to my nerd talk. This was my TED talk for the night. Congratulations to Lyle O'Ross, who won the disc member package. So again, if you are interested in becoming a disc member and you want a monthly disc and shirt and disc golf stuff, go ahead and sign up with them and tell them SmashBoxx sent you. It's a good service. They're good guys there. They've always supported us, and whenever I have asked for other things, they're always right on board. So, Brandon says, get Link's Awakening. Your daughter will love it. Well, my daughter won't love it. I will love it. And I will play it, and I will beat it, and it will sit there because that's what I do. And my wife will look at me like I'm a child because I'm playing a video game. But she knows because she married me. And that's her problem, not mine. So, yeah, so for Ricky and Terry and myself and all of you out the viewers, all of our Patreon supporters, as always, I say, we can't do this without you guys. You are the lifeblood. You make everything happen. Without it, I guarantee you we still probably wouldn't be here doing this week after week after week. And it means a lot. And I'm excited to get every quarter. I'm excited to get our rewards out. Every year I'm excited to get those discs out. And every week I'm excited to give things away. And that's what makes all of this worthwhile. And I love talking. I love talking tech. I like talking disc golf. I love talking tech. I love talking the tech behind the disc golf. I'm excited for next year. I really am, for the Disc Golf Pro Tour. I've got ideas, and I'm sharing them with Todd Rainwater, the new owner, and he's very receptive, and we're going back and forth with different things, and nothing we can talk about now, but there are definitely options and excitement for the future. So let's have a good night. It's not quite Wednesday here yet, but those of you who are listening to this on the podcast, it's probably Friday, so I hope you tuning in to the GMC, the Green Mountain Championships. Go check us out on the Disc Golf Pro Tours YouTube page. For Johnny V, I am signing off for the night. Good night.